My name is Adrian Nantchev, and this channel is all about helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur. So click on the subscribe button below and press the bell notification right next to it for the latest uploads, because this channel is all about helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur. Now, why is it that you should keep learning? Well, well, that's an interesting question. Now, you want to keep learning in life. You want to be a perpetual learning machine, really. A few reasons. One is that 10 years from now, you'll look back at today and say, oh, had I only known this, or had I only known that, or had I known this at the time, my life would be completely different. So that's called regret, arguably, because by not knowing what you know in the future, today, then you're going to miss out, and then your future self is going to say, I regret that, or why didn't I do this, or whatever. And I talked about this in one of the videos, actually, which is my $2 billion mistake, where it's like I lacked the awareness in 2009 or 10 to do something very simple, and it's like it would have been a completely different life today. And it's like, well, there's no one to blame but me. That's the way it works. But you also want to keep learning as well, because the world is changing all the time, and you want to keep up with it. You don't want to be like living by a 20th century mindset towards life, towards health, wealth, love and happiness, when we're striving way into the 21st century now. You know, we're just well, 10th, just not too far off, a quarter way through this century. Quarter, one fourth, but time doesn't stop. So if you learn these things now, you're reducing regret, and you're adapting to the way this new world works, and new ways of communicating and using and leveraging and profiting and benefiting from, the awareness, the information out there. There's a lot out there that can change your life in a bit, and it's like, well, what you're doing really by learning these things now, you're doing what's called shortening the learning curve. Meaning that it's going to take you 10 years to get from here to here. 10 years from your own personal trial and error for your own journey. But then it's like, well, nothing's stopping you from going from here in 10 years to be here in 10 years, or even a year even, because it's true that you learn from your own mistakes. That's very true. But there's nothing to say that you can't learn from the mistakes of other people. I've got biographies behind the camera of people, Steve Jobs, for example, Tony Blair and Lee Evans. And behind me, there's one or two of the biographies, but there's loads of other books here that people would have spent a decade, or a few years certainly, reading and researching and making mistakes. They make the mistake and then write up the book, and I buy the book and I read it, and then I come to the same conclusion. I'm going from here, here, like in year 1, to here, up here even, in 1 year or something, rather than taking me 10 years to get to that point. I'm shortening that time span, and that's very powerful, because that means that I'll, as a side note, in the future, 80 years from now, I'll have fewer regrets, because I'll have learned things that I know. There are things I know today, age 24, that other people out there in the world, whether same age, same generation, same town, someone that could be 10 meters away from me, or 2 miles radius from me, a radius that I know that they in their life may never learn. That's why they never have that mistake. Because to learn from your mistakes, the caveat of that is you've got to set yourself up. You've got to have that setting and that context that enables you, or that results in that lesson. And if you never have that kind of context, that this different world, then they're never going to have that mistake, and they're never going to learn that lesson. A prime example of this is you'll have assets. My principle is do the work once, get paid forever. So I'm going to have assets to fund lifestyle instead of exchanging time for money. There's nothing wrong with either, but it's just I know that in age 100 or 120, even 130, the generations are getting old, people are lasting longer. I know that a lot of people my age, generation, 2 miles radius, will say, I wish I hadn't worked so much. I wish I hadn't done this. I wish I hadn't done that. And I can predict now that age, that 130 odd, I can say, oh, I wish I I wish I had not done this thing instead. You know, I'm gonna have more. I will personally have more regret through action as opposed to inaction. People will say, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that. And I'll be the opposite, saying, oh, why did I spend a few days doing this or doing that, or a year doing that, you know, that kind of stuff. But slight digression. But you learn from other people's mistakes, shorten that curve, and take your life to the next level. Because learning from your own mistakes is very costly and time consuming, but learning from other people's mistakes is so much more effective, so much more quicker and faster. I can have a conversation with someone and they'll say something like, oh, I did this silly thing one day, and it's like, oh, and it's like, oh, I'll bear that in mind, I'm not going to do that. It's a little metric that I coined called cost of discovery, which says that if it costs me a year and a couple of grand to come to conclusion X, and I tell you casually over the course of a video or a conversation or over a pint, for example, I just tell you it, just, oh, do this, don't do that. That little lesson right there cost me all this time, energy, and momentum, and I just tell you it. Just do this, don't do that. And then right there, your like learning time span, or learning curve is completely shortened by who knows how much, and based on a few of the things, like if you learn that lesson, if you heed the warning and things like that, you know. But the cost of discovery for me was this, but I tell you it casually. The cost for you is like nothing, you know. It's like getting to the place and buying a beer, for example, like pittance compared to what you can. So the ROI is insane. The return on investment is insane, you know, insane. So always want to keep learning. The world is moving on, developing and changing, and it's like, as I said in the previous video, if we were alive in the year 1817, our priorities would be completely different than they are today. And it's like, well, in 20 years from now, what will be the priorities then? You know, will the internet be around? Probably, yeah. Won't be, probably, yeah. In a completely different form than it is today. And then it's like, you got to ask yourself, are you benefiting from this change in the world? You know, the technology and social and trends and the scientific and such. Are you benefiting from it? You know, directly or indirectly? Did you profit from it? Directly, indirectly, you know? When the world changes, if you're not changing with it, then you're missing out. You're leaving opportunity and money on the table. And that's a real, you know, that to me is a real shame, because it's like, I know a lot of people out there could do amazing things with their life. And even there are people out there that I may have never met before, and they can do amazing things with their life. And how do I know that? Because that's what life is all about. Life is opportunity. Life is essentially consciousness, that and energy, atoms and iron and mineral and vitamins and all this and all that. That's in the earth, but it just happens to be here instead of over there. You know. In the same in the ground atom, you know, like iron metal, the same kind of like elements inside me. And it's like, but I happen to have it, but also I have consciousness as well. So life is then opportunity, because the same minerals exist everywhere, but I have consciousness. And what's the difference between me and, say, a book that might have the same vitamins and minerals in there, trace amounts or whatever? Well, consciousness. So that means that life is opportunity. That I have physical existence, but I can do something with that existence. This book here, this chair, this camera, the cable, tripod, the wall, this little monitor here, who knows what kind of, it might have gold, it might have trace elements of silver and gold in there, and who knows what else. And it's like, well, might be, well, I don't know, like gold or silver, other elements that could be inside me. And it's like, well, I have got consciousness, so life is opportunity. So life is, as the world moves on, are you taking the opportunity to grow and develop with the world as it changes? If you're not, then you're missing out. 10 years from now, things that will work today, okay, let's put it this way. From 2000 until 2010, there were new industries and new worlds that were developed, new jobs essentially that were created, industries, opportunities that were realised and maximised and capitalised on. For example, I know that after 9/11, the Department of Homeland Security didn't exist. So something happened, what's called a Black Swan event, 9/11, and it results in the creation of the Department of Homeland Defence. 100 years ago, we might have had blacksmiths and men, I don't know what they're called, horseshoe men? I think it's a blacksmith still, but those jobs aren't really around today. That they're more in the artisan, more like professional kind of handcraft stuff. Completely different world. But then it's like, are you keeping up with that change? Are you keeping up with the world? AI is on the way, and AI is going to create so much opportunity for productivity, for increasing standards of living, meaning that we have to do less with our time. I can just do this, and it's like, oh, do this, and it's like the AI will realise that command with a macro, and it will do so many more, like the clappers and the lights, you know. I'll do this, and the AI as a macro will realise, do all these complex commands for me. It saves my time, it makes me more productive. I can do that, and I can get more stuff done in a day. Very good. That is going to create opportunity and disruption in the world. And when it creates disruption, how are you going to benefit from said disruption? It's an opportunity. People talk about, oh, AI gets rid of jobs and all the rest. Yes, it's true, but you see, it allows us, it frees up our time to do more stuff, with more creative things with our time. You know, had it not been for, say, like the tractor or industrial revolution, modern day economy simply wouldn't exist. It would still be an agrarian economy working on the land. You know, before the industrial revolution, we had like 80, 70% population working the land, tilling the soil. That didn't free up much time to do other things, did it? You know, the economy needs specialists to be more sophisticated and to grow. And we can't do that if we're doing menial things. No, I'll rephrase that. The rise of AI, for example, will allow us to have more free time to do the things we really care and really love about. And then we have a more specialised, more robust economy. And that's the future, that's opportunity. And these things are going to create so much opportunity. And if you don't know how to ride that wave or how to respond to that change of the world or change of trend, then you are missing out. And this is why it's important to learn, because as the world changes, how are you going to change with it? You can't be here, like when the world is like pushing up here, you know, like knowledge-wise. Or you can't be growing at 1% and the world's growing at 2% a year, for example, like mind awareness or mind sophistication-wise. The world's going to outpace you. In 10 years, you're going to be here where you should have been 5 years. You know, you're going to be here where in fact where you should be up here, ideally. You know, the world's changing, but are you changing with it? That's why it's important to keep learning. Learning is not something you just turn off and just stop doing when you leave school or college or university. You keep doing it forever and ever. There's a quote that I think about every now and then by Michelangelo, the guy who did the Sistine Chapel, that said, even at the age of 80, I'm still growing, still learning. I'm still learning new things. And it's like, quite profound. Even at age 80, he had the curiosity and the humbleness to say, I'm wrong. I need to learn more. And I say this to some people now, like, it might be the naivety, the age, or whatever, but it's like, I think if we do this, blah, 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 blah. Really, that's me acknowledging my own lack of like a blind spot. It's like, if we do this, we could get this result, but I know there's something, there's a known unknown that I've yet to realise through learning. There's a skill or a strategy or a technique or a website that I can use that I can be more productive and more on leverage in the business or in life. But I don't know what that is yet because I've yet to uncover it. There's opportunity everywhere, you just got to keep digging. So that's why it's important to keep learning. But remember, however, well actually, the question of the day is, what are you learning about? What are you learning about? I'm learning about mostly financial stuff now, because I'm going to be working on something interesting. So financial stuff, that's what I'm working on now. What about you? What are you learning about now? Remember also that this channel is all about helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur. So click on the subscribe button below and press the bell notification right next to it for the latest uploads. How cool is that?